Two, hello, check. 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 It me. Hello. Hello, folks. Hello, friends. I'm here for the Rob Show. That's me. That's me. It's TRRS. That's what we do every single day on this platform. Every single day. Well, weekday. Did you get in a fight with the lawnmower? No. No. Grom, I just got my hair cut. We bathe and talk hoagies. That's absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. How are you doing, folks? I'm still sick. I think I'm recovering. I don't know. I have coughing fits still. I'm still stuffed up. I was just in the bathroom prior to coming on here, just like trying to empty out all the gunk I got going on up here. But off work early. Very nice. Very nice, Brian. That's sick. Oh. So I'm still sick, but I'm here. I'm here to entertain each and every one of you. Maybe we'll learn a little bit along the way. We'll laugh. We'll cry. I'll open up and be vulnerable to you. You will laugh at me and make fun of me and mock me. You know? Yeah, we did a Lucid collab last night. Yeah, he appeared on the Insurgents podcast. I don't know if it's out. I guess maybe it dropped. I didn't see that it did. Oh, that's how I found TRRS. Interesting. Cool. Well, the episode we did yesterday with Lucid should be out. If it's not out now, it's going to be out any moment now. And please, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to that. Please subscribe to that. The Insurgents podcast. We talked to our friend Lucid Fox just last night. Have you tried gyrating vigorously? Yes, I did. Yes. Is that on YouTube? There would be clips that get posted on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know if Jordan's been putting the whole episodes on there. Push with the finger in between your eyebrows and push your tongue up to the roof of your mouth. It will open up your sinuses for 20 seconds. You know what, Grom? I think you're just messing with me. Brian, you can click the link. It's on Substack, the podcast. I think you just want me to do a silly face. And then you're going to do your little screen grabs and your little GIFs. Oh, look at this guy. Look, he's doing something stupid. Look at this guy. Ooh. He's out there every single day trying to work for us to be entertained and informed about the world. That's what you sound like to me. I'll try it off camera. I will. Thank you. You don't actually sound like that, Grom. I was doing kind of like an exaggerated impression there. And you do this when you talk. I don't even know what this is. Like what I was just doing there. I don't know what that, it's just some, when I'm doing that voice, it just makes sense to do. It just makes sense for me to do. I genuinely don't know what I'm going for, what it's supposed to be, or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it just makes sense to do. Swedes do be doing that. That's right. That was on the wrong stream. Now you've come to the right place, Moss. If Rob's coughs get muted as a cough enthusiast, I'll take my business elsewhere. I'm gonna do a big segment, an ASMR coughing segment. You can hear me try to cough out all the gunk. I'm doing that right now. It's kind of spooky. You guessed that's what I was doing. I know. Genuinely no idea what it is, but you know, it makes sense to do, I guess. Lots of stuff to get into today. I didn't start with like a snack or a beverage or anything like that. I kind of like my eating schedule is kind of off today. I got some groceries this morning. I stocked up on beverages. I got one of those like old school, because usually I get the Diet Coke, like the fridge packs, like the rectangular ones. But I got one of those like old school like 24 pack soda like pallets. You know those, like in the like little cardboard thing with the plastic on top. I got one of those. The thing that your grandparents have in the basement. You know, you go down to the garage and they got those pallets of soda in there. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I have not looked at the Pudding Fingers video yet. I shared it on Twitter, but I haven't even looked like at the full video with the sound and everything, so we can watch that in a bit. We're definitely going to watch it. My wife says all the chat, including me, are nerdlingers, unfortunately. But am I a nerdlinger, or is it just the chat? I mean, I thought it was just a 24 pack, but maybe it is more. I think it's just 24. I didn't count. Hey, Dakadoon. And yeah, I got some other good stuff. I got some leftovers from last night. I made a nice, like on my instant noodle game. Made some. Again, I shared the picture in the Discord. I made some more mee goreng noodles with the spicy sausage and onion and some veggies and some green onion on top, like not cooked. Have some leftovers for that. So I wasn't really totally. I ate at like 11. I wasn't totally feeling it now, so I think I'm gonna have that as like a lunch or whatever at like maybe 2. I'll fry up an egg and throw it on there as the leftover. It's going to be very yummy. Oh man, I wish I had a tap. A Diet Coke tap. Like I was mentioning this in the Discord. If I ever get to like Hassan level of popularity on here, which should happen just any day now, I think. Maybe not any day now, but definitely give me another couple weeks and I should be right up there. And when that day comes, I'm going to get a fountain. I'm going to get a diet soda fountain installed right in front of me. I can get a little hose, just... That would be great. I would really be living in the lap of luxury there. If I had a Zon mode, I'd have my toilet flush Diet Coke. That would just be... I mean, that's very decadent, certainly. I like to drink it, though. I don't know. I would feel weird about mixing it with toilet stuff. Like a garden fountain or drinking fountain. Yeah, or like one of those infinity, like one of those chocolate fountains. You know? Just perpetually, it's like a perpetual Diet Coke volcano. One of those multi-button soda sprayers. Yes! Yes. If you've ever worked in a restaurant too, you know nothing. I mean, obviously we've talked about the McDonald's Diet Coke formula, how good that is. But close second though, if you've ever worked at a restaurant and a bar, to have the little spray thing. That's just fantastic. The gun, exactly. That's great stuff. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I should be as popular as Hassan soon, you know? I should be up there soon. When I'm at 44 viewers now. So I just need what? 10 times, 100 times that. And then I should be like in that vicinity. Maybe 1,000 times more than that. We'll see. I mean, what's the difference? 100, 1,000, you know, who knows? We're each worth 100 Hassan viewers. That is true, yeah. That's true. Have you tried pausing Top Chef videos? Maybe we need to do that more. We did some reality content a couple months ago, and it was kind of a hit segment. Good luck, but I mean, don't quit your day job. This is literally my day job. That's the silly thing about that. Yeah. No, I know. Looking forward to shitting on Rob for buying a reasonable home to house his family while also being socialist. I'll tell you this: if I ever did actually like hit it big off of doing socialist content, I would not be sharing any of that details with anybody. I've seen you jackals react to that stuff. I'm just gonna be like, no, I'm just still living in a cardboard box. Maybe I already bought a house with my Twitch money, and this is just a room in the house that I purchased. Like, you don't know. You don't know. Oh boy. Pretty tired still. It's been hard to sleep lately. Feeling sick like this, it's really hard to like get a good night's sleep. That is true, Sean. But both things you said are true. Especially the part about let's not opening the can of worms. And that's my fault, so not your fault.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Sunny Sola, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. Thank you, Sunny Sola. We just got to get CPC to pay attention. How do we cater to them? Fuck, I'm trying. I would love for the President Xi to sponsor the stream. Jesus. One of these days. I don't know. One of these days. Oh boy. I had a Monster Energy this morning, and I don't think it gave me quite enough energy. Or maybe just make your socialism palatable to social democrats and liberals, and the money will come in. Placation is a hell of a drug. I guess that's my problem, right, Dimitri? It's like my approach has always been like, I'm going to make social democrats and liberals respect the DPRK. And Stalin. Not the other way around. You know, that was always my, the Captain America thing, you know? When everyone is demanding you move, I hold fast. I hold fast and I say, no, you move. That's when it comes to DPRK and me.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Magyar Guy, thank you for the 5 months tier 1. Thank you, Magyar Guy.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
To assist in your purchase of a Beverly Hills manor.
Sikalufakis, thank you very much. 16 months of Prime. Thank you very much, Sikalufakis. I was still at odds with AES countries when I first followed. Thank you, Rob, for making us see past the imperial lens. I love that, Alexandra. Thank you. I mean, it's been a journey for me, too, as I become more and more comfortable talking about this stuff. But always really, like, sincerely delighted to learn that there's people in this community that have kind of, like, you know, have come along on that socialist path, or that have maybe reevaluated or re-examined certain things. I think that's fucking tremendous. Sorry, that was bothering me. I think, like, as I've become more comfortable talking about it, you know, my hope is that for some people that have tuned into this program that have maybe had certain ideas, like especially about China, because we talk about China so much because that's the focus of this like propaganda, or about Russia, Ukraine, or any of these kind of really controversial things. Because I remember when the Hong Kong protests were going on, I had this really bad feeling about it, and I wanted to say, like, this seems like bullshit to me, or a color revolution, or whatever, but just didn't feel comfortable making that claim. Just didn't feel comfortable putting myself out there to talk about these things. Or when it comes to North Korea, or, you know, or DPRK, as they prefer to be called, or any of these kind of controversial things. What I think that I maybe have helped a little bit for certain people is just giving people permission to say the thing, you know, to say the thing. And you don't have to say, like, well, it's not that I support China, but, or, you know, it's not, you know, what are we, North Korea? But, you know, maybe I think I've given permission to people to just be like, say the thing that they mean without kind of trying to couch it in this kind of respectability bullshit, which I think we've determined doesn't really contribute anything all that much. Yeah, Grom's used to this shit. Absolutely. Maybe the DPRK should try to DPR pay you a sponsor fee. I mean, I wouldn't say no, but no matter what, though, I do still plan on one day visiting DPRK, and any of you, if you want to come along, you're welcome to, with an official TRRS friendship delegation. I genuinely want to do that so bad. Like, that's not even exaggeration. I would like to go to DPRK as an official TRRS friendship delegation and present them a triangular plaque representing the bonds of friendship between DPRK and this community. I genuinely hope to one day do that. I was listening to an interview with labor activist John Melrod, and he told a story where when he was a kid, he first learned about Mao in the 70s and sent him a letter to ask him to send more information about CPC, and a few weeks later he received a bunch of literature from the CPC. That's true. It couldn't hurt. It couldn't hurt to just send President Xi an email. How would get you arrested? Well, that's, as I talked about the last time this came up, Grom. Like, if we did that and anyone fucked around, it's like Mission Impossible. I'm disavowing all knowledge. I'm disavowing all knowledge of you and your connection to the community. It's like, I don't know that person. Never seen them before in my life. So that's on you. If people are going to come with me along with that and they're going to fuck around, that's going to be on you. I'm not going to come and bail you out. One thing I was talking about with Jordan yesterday, actually, and I'm tentatively saying this is happening. Keeping a dossier on us with itemized dirt is a bit weird, though. I don't think it's weird. I mean, that's just being a responsible community manager. I want to know about the people in the community and what they're into, and it's not like I'm going to use that information for anything. It's just to have, you know, and you don't need to worry about it. Everyone be able, we're canceling the milking factory tour. Thank you. So one thing, though, that I did tentatively kind of agree to, you know, and this could always change, obviously, but I'm tentatively saying that next year at the DNC in Chicago, Illinois, I think I am going to take a trip to the DNC in Chicago next year. So if that does happen, I'm tentatively saying that it's going to happen, but you never know. Obviously, things can change. If we can make it work, then I will be in Chicago for the DNC next year. So if you'd like to do some kind of a meetup, if we want to have some kind of a Chicago meetup, we can do that. But this is very tentative. I'm not setting this in stone or anything like this. The RNC is in Milwaukee. I might do both. We were talking yesterday about going to both. I imagine I would like Milwaukee. Chicago. Polish sausage. We can all get our skulls cracked by the CPD. Yeah, that's right. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It just sounds wonderful. Guarantee my passport is flagged. In all honesty, I was genuinely kind of worried about it, but I have been to the States a couple of times. I was just in the States a couple weeks ago, and it's not been an issue. Anyway, tentatively next year in Chicago at the DNC, we'll do some kind of like live Insurgents podcast content, and we'll do some kind of a, if it happens. No one like fucking get too crazy about this yet. If it happens, we'll do some live Insurgents podcast content, and we can do, if people are interested, some kind of TRRS meetup. We can get one of those dipped sandwiches. What is it? What are those? Like the hot beef. We could all get together for some of the hot beef. I don't know. That loose border policy, letting anyone in. That's kind of it, right? If I didn't look like this, it would probably be a lot more difficult for me. If I was Middle Eastern, I would probably be banned from, or Chinese, I would probably be banned from the country. But we can go get a smack palm pay wet, innit? The smack bomb pay wet. I've actually been to Wigan where that was that was filmed. Wigan, UK. I've spent I don't want to say a significant amount of time there, but like I've hung out in Wigan on multiple occasions. That's right, King Uno. It was very fancy, Wigan. Unrelated, but I had to dip yesterday before getting a chance to thank Rob and y'all for talking about how rough it can be out there yesterday. I only feel a bit better about how stressed I've been recently. I'm happy to hear that, Sean. I know you've had a lot going on, and it is really stressful. And I'm happy that can be of some help, some comfort. Hello, really chill guy. What's up? That was during my boy band era. It's exactly right. We did a bunch of shows with a band from Wigan. The band was called Snakes Hate Fire. We toured with them around the UK, and they were from Wigan, and we ended up staying there a bunch of times, like when we needed a place to stay. The episode ended up okay. That's good. I mean, I just sent people to the podcast a moment ago, but I'll give another little reminder that that's where you can find the Insurgents podcast. Proud of the artwork. Okay, let's see this. Let's see this artwork. That's pretty good. That's good. I can finally show off my triangle-shaped pillow I made of him. That'd be just lovely. That sounds fantastic. Very real photo. So I'm having a bit of a dilemma. You think I should have my lunch now? What do you think, Chad? Should I just go and have that now, and then I can eat my leftovers, and then we can get to the important discourse? The streamer's dilemma, exactly. My tum-tum says I should wait a little bit, but I'm also going to probably eat pizza later. So if I wait till like 2 to eat my lunch, then it's going to be like 5:30 or so, and I might not want pizza that much. You seem healthier. That's good. I feel a little bit better. I still am coughing. I still have like pain in my chest and congestion, but it really helps before the stream. I take a shower, and that kind of helps me feel a little better. I'm not quite where I need to be. Still feel pretty shitty, but hopefully on the mend. Looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to go see the Mario Brothers movie. I'm going to take my kid to see the Mario Brothers movie tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Listen to your heart. There's nothing else you can do. Noodles wait for no man. So the only thing that I have to do is fry up an egg. So I'm going to have to just like, for a few moments, maybe there's some like, maybe is there a video we can put on just for like 15 minutes? Because then I can kind of come in and out, get my lunch ready. There must be something we can put on. I know there's the Trump ad, but I want to make sure that I'm like engaged for that. And I certainly don't want to look at it when I'm fucking eating, because it's horrifying. Okay, this looks good.
Do you think that...
This looks good. We're going to talk about like Lula in China and stuff and all this other shit, so this looks like a good place to start. Or is there... Let's do one final check here. What is this, Dr. Maggot? Opening into this other window. In case anyone messes around. Oh, this Tibet thing seems interesting. And what else? Someone else had something. Another video. Up the Reds had something. Oh, that's the... You've been pushing that for a while, that behind the Iran-Contra affair. That's definitely... I mean, that's a long thing, and we're definitely going to have to devote an entire stream to it one day. for sure. Let's look at this though. There's this Jingling Li and Mick Wallace interview. So I'm going to put that. Okay, I'm going to put that. I'm going to make my lunch here. We can just chill out and watch this video of Mick Wallace hanging out with Jingling Li. I'm going to try and get her on the show. I think I DM'd her once. I didn't get a response, but I would like to get Jingling Li to come on the show sometime. You are the Iran-Contra pusher. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to put this on, this interview with Mick Wallace. And we will... She also did one with... What's her name? Claire Daly? Yeah. I'd like to get both of them on the show as well sometime. So I'm going to throw this on. I'm going to make my lunch. We'll have lunch. And then we will progress with the rest of the program. Okay? Here we go.
Also reflect.
Someone else, by the way, that I think I want to have on is Dimitri Lascaris. I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to reach out to him, like hopefully for like something next week. Considering he's making waves, obviously visited Moscow, took part in this seminar there. I think, and he's getting like excommunicated from the Green Party right now as they're freaking out by the fact that he's been a critic of foreign policy, like Canada's role in foreign policy, and he's a consistent critic of imperialism. Yeah, when he's back from Russia. I wasn't sure if he was back yet, but okay, he's in Crimea right now. Okay, well, I'm gonna get him back. I'm gonna get him on when he comes back. That's gonna be good too. Anyway, let's hear from Mick Wallace.
The dilemma that Europe is in terms of its relations with China.
The Americans are very keen to get Europe on the same page as themselves. They want to drive that wedge between the EU and China to benefit America's interest. But it is not in the interest of the people of Europe, it's not in the interest of European business, it's not in the interest of peace that EU doesn't have a good relationship with China. For us, and we feel that the people of Europe want to have a good relationship with China. We feel that the businesses of Europe do want to have a good relationship with China. But sadly now we have a political class who are being manipulated by US interest. We think that Europe needs to work more closely with China and with everybody else. We think we should have good relationships with everybody, including the Americans. But the Americans have to start behaving as one of the countries of the world rather than behaving as if they own the place.
The NATO summit in Madrid was a big love-in for the supporters of the military-industrial complex. NATO is not a defence alliance, it's a war machine. Ask the people of Afghanistan, Iraq or Libya. NATO's real goal is the defence of a waning US hegemony and a unipolar world system. That's what NATO exists for. Any discussion of that is silenced, chilled in this land of free speech. A survey by the European Council on Foreign Relations showed that the vast majority of European citizens want peace rather than promoting a war that punishes Russia. But NATO never wants peace. What I want to know is, what does the EU really want? The move against TikTok has more to do with a reckless new Cold War posturing and driving a wedge between the EU and China than anything to do with safeguarding user data. It's true that TikTok has the capacity to control content and collect and store its users' personal data. This is also true of Google, Facebook, Twitter and others. There are countless ways for governments to target people. If we really cared about this, why didn't the Commission do nothing to address the abuses revealed by the prison programme revelations? Why don't we have a set of rules that adequately protect people in the EU? Governments that restrict access to Western platforms are accused of being authoritarian. Yet, now we're banning platforms based on pure suspicion and speculation. We have regulations for a reason. They should be applied to all platforms in a rational manner. We can engage with companies to address concerns. Instead, we're busy making ourselves look unreasonable, confrontational, and almost as hysterical as the Americans.
Mr. Wallace, so happy to see you in Beijing. Who'd have thought that we could meet in Beijing?
Well, sure, everything is possible.
So, can you tell us more about your trip in China this time?
Well, I suppose we've just come to get a feel for China, to get a feel for who the people are, and I suppose to have a better, when you go to a place, I've never been to China before, so when you go to any country, and experience it, you have a better idea as to who they are. And while obviously we follow the politics very closely in all matters, not having been to China was something that we needed to correct. So it's not an official mission, but we're very eager to be here. And China is such a world player now and has such an influence on everything worldwide. We need to learn more about China.
And I want to know your take on EU-China relations, because it's very interesting because van der Leyen and the French President Macron are planning to visit China very soon. And just right before Ursula's trip to China, she gave this speech to a European audience.
Our relationship with China is far too important to be put at risk by failing to clearly set the terms of a healthy engagement. It is clear that our relations have become more distant and more difficult in the last few years. We've seen a very deliberate hardening of China's overall strategic posture for some time. And it has now been matched by a ratcheting up of increasingly assertive actions. This is why it is vitally important that we ensure diplomatic stability and open communication with China. I believe it is neither viable nor in Europe's interest to decouple from China. Our relations are not black or white.
I'm back.
Our response cannot be either. And this is why we need to focus on de-risk, not decouple. And this is part of the reason why I will soon be visiting Beijing together with President Macron. Managing this relationship and having an open and frank exchange with our Chinese counterparts is a key part of what I would call the de-risking through diplomacy.
That's good, Sean.
Of our relations with China.
I'm happy to hear that.
We will never be shy in raising the deeply concerning issues I've already set out.
The deeply concerning issues from the fucking president of the EU.
For discussion on a more ambitious partnership.
The deeply concerning issues in China, says EU President Ursula von der Leyen. Yeah. Please tell us more about these deeply concerning issues.
Fairer and more disciplined.
I'd love to hear all about it.
So, I mean, the whole speech, you can feel the two different attitudes that she has, or probably most of European politicians have, in terms of China. So do you think that also reflects the dilemma that Europe is in terms of its relations with China?
Last name.
Yeah, look at, we were elected to the European Parliament in May 2019, and I suppose after a few months, we noticed that there was an element of anti-China rhetoric in the parliament itself. And we noticed that it was growing as well. And I was a bit surprised by this, because the European Union was set up kind of for business reasons, right? It was like a free trade zone. It was set up as a monetary union, right? And an economic union where countries would they would help their businesses grow in each country by working together. And the idea of Europe working together and not fighting with each other made sense anyway. And the European project was, we also saw it as a peace project, but it was, the truth was that it was more about economics than anything else, right? So we always felt that big business...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to
kind of
talk you through
controlled
all
the European
this.
Union in many ways, and still does, right? And we would argue that it's much more too neoliberal.
Don Darksoni, thanks for the gifted sub.
We don't like neoliberalism because it prioritises the
Thank
interest
you, Don
of big
Darksoni.
business over the interest of the ordinary people. So we saw big business as being the real decision makers in Europe. And we thought that given that it was so vital for European business to have a good relationship with China, that we could never see that being threatened. But gradually over the last 4 years, we have seen that the more positive side of our relationship with China has been eroded by...
It's my pleasure, Don. May I call you Don? You can eat Asian food with a fork. You don't have to use the most useless utensil ever invented. I don't know. I like eating with chopsticks. Honestly, like I'm not a deliberate eater. When I got a fork, I'm just like, it's like I don't slow down. I get it all in there as fast as possible. It kind of causes me to take a little moment. You can take a little moment to enjoy the food, you know? I like that. You know? And you look kind of sophisticated too, which I also like.
Certain elements. And as you were saying about von der Leyen's speech, she's saying, oh yeah, of course it's important that we have a good relationship with China. I mean, she's German. Germany's biggest trading partner is China. And Germany is really the jewel of Europe in business terms, right? And the idea that Germany wouldn't have a strong economic relationship with China is nuts, right? It wouldn't make any sense for Germany. But what we've seen in the last 2 years in particular, and probably is even more so since the war in Ukraine started, is you have seen the effort by the Americans to drive a wedge between the European Union and China in America's interest, not Europe's. But we have seen this garner pace in Europe. And it's very unfortunate that at this time we feel that the European Union hasn't had the courage
You can
to
count on
stand
me.
up
You're going to
to
have
the
good
bullying
old
and the
Rob to
pressure
talk you through all
from the
this.
US. The US says that China is a threat to the security of
Thank you,
the
Don
Americans.
Darksoni.
It says that China is a threat to the security of
Thank
Europe.
you for the gifted sub.
Well, we don't agree, right? China hasn't dropped a bomb on anybody in 40 years. China is not a threat to the security of the people of America. China is a threat to America's long-held financial supremacy, the supremacy of the dollar. China is threatening that, so America has a problem with China. It's not because China is a threat to their security, it's a threat to their financial supremacy. And sadly, the Americans are very keen to get Europe on the same page as themselves. They want to drive that wedge between the EU and China to benefit America's interest. But it is not in the interest of the people of Europe, it's not in the interest of European business, it's not in the interest of peace that EU doesn't have a good relationship with China. For us, and we feel that the people of Europe want to have a good relationship with China. We feel that the businesses of Europe do want to have a good relationship with China. But sadly now we have a political class who are being manipulated by US interest So you had the hawks going to a place that we weren't going to before. And we see that EU-China relationship is being threatened in an unreasonable way, in an irrational way.
I'm just curious, which country does the Europe trust more, the United States or China, or neither?
That was really good.
We say that, I mean, Europe loves to talk about, oh, we have European values. And if we're going to do business with anybody, they have to share our values. I mean, this is nonsense.
Chin chin.
Europe doesn't have values, it has interests.
You can count on me.
Everybody
You're going to
has
have good old
interests.
Rob to
And the
talk you
idea
through
that
all
we
this.
are dictated by values is...
Dundark Zone, I don't know if you timed that to work perfectly right as I was taking a sip, but there was like two Rob sippins going on there at the same time on screen. Thank you, Dundark Zone, for another gifted sub. And yeah, congratulations to Carnoba. Look at that. With the highly elite, highly exclusive, and prestigious golden TRRS 2-year sub badge. Thank you, Carnoba. One of the only members of this community that I met IRL. Wonderful person. Excuse me.
nonsense for everybody, in my opinion. Every country has interests, and how you deal with them varies, okay? But the idea that Europe is... You asked me who has the better relationship. Well, I mean, okay, you take a country like Ireland, right, where we're from. We've had a lot of relationship with America at a personal level. A lot of Irish people emigrated to America. We speak the same language. There's been a lot of American influence in Ireland. And the Irish people they've always been kind of close to America, okay, because of that. We haven't had that same relationship with China, right? But at the same time, up until recently, I didn't detect an anti-China rhetoric in Europe. I still don't detect it among the people. It's in the political class and it's with the media. But
it is linking down to the people, though, in some cases. I can't speak to Ireland, but in Canada it sure is.
China. I think most people understand that everybody acts in their own interest. And it's not really a case of trusting A or trusting B. I don't think you can break it down into those terms. But I would insist that the people of Europe are in a different place to the politicians of Europe.
You mentioned because of many people in the Europe share the same values and language with the United States, because in general they are still the West. They share probably similar understanding about democracy, about many issues. And China, to them, probably an alien country, alien culture, because there's very little similarities. So in that case, do you think between the competition of the United States and China, people will automatically choose, you know what, United States, even though like we don't agree with them on many issues, but because we have similar values and similar political system, we'd rather United States win, but not China win. Do you think so?
Well, first of all, I think there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding.
It's amusing to me that the same elites that shit people's jobs to China are now benefiting from the anti-China sentiment of some of the same people. Yeah, I mean, it is really shameless, isn't it? It's like the American and Western capitalists, along with their like political allies or partners or subordinates, really, in the way our political system actually works, ship all these jobs away, and then and then twofold, you blame immigrants to your country and you blame the Chinese. So domestically you blame immigrants, and internationally you blame the Chinese for like stealing these poor innocent jobs away. We're these American capitalists, and we just wanted to keep the manufacturing industry here so everyone had decent union jobs and everyone had benefits and vacation time and all these good things. We wanted to do that with those darned immigrants came in here and just snatched all those jobs away. And then the Chinese just came and just stole all the factories. It's amazing. And then they fund media as well. So it's like they literally pay the media to perpetuate this story to people, and people believe it. What is this, Mikey? Let's see. What did you clip here? One of the only members of this community that I met IRL. Jesus, why is that so loud? Wonderful person. Excuse me.
Nonsense.
One of the only members of this community that I met IRL. Nonsense. Am I distorted like that always? Do I need to turn my mic down? Am I all distorted? Folks, you got to tell me about this. You got to tell me about this. I don't think so. Okay. I did see that I was kind of peaking a little bit. Turned it down ever so slightly.
Understanding about values.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Pelicans, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you, Pelicans. I appreciate it. Your mic is always louder than YouTube, but you're not distorting. But I want it to be like that, though, because I like to be able to talk over things and not have it, like, get all mixed up together. You do sound weird, but I think that's you as normal. That's right. I think that's just me sounding weird, because I'm sick.
What are these values? And when we say America is our like-minded partner, well, America has militarily intervened in over 250 countries in the last 30 years. 250 countries? I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say 250 countries. I should say on 250 occasions, because there's 194 countries in the UN. But I mean, America is intervening in other countries' affairs on a daily basis. Are they our values? America is helping to keep the global South poor by its financial imperialism.
Very good point, right? Financial imperialism. As we were talking about yesterday, a key component in imperialism is when the victims of imperialism are kept poor, are kept from development to the benefit of the imperialist country. So when we toss around accusations of imperialism to describe situations where that's not actually occurring, it completely dilutes the term and makes it meaningless. When we say it's imperialism when another country just militarily invades a place, or they make trade deals with someone else, or they overthrow the slave-owning society there and restore a different, more democratic system. We kind of dilute those things, don't we? Dilute those terms. That's right. They're overexploited. They are. Biden started the war in Ukraine. Well, I wouldn't say that Biden started the war in Ukraine, but I would say that, America and NATO is definitely responsible for escalating the point to it ended up in a military conflict. Absolutely. Biden was only around for part of that, though. Oh, okay. He's trying to do like a gotcha. He's got to do like a gotcha. What do you think of the fact that Biden started more wars than Trump? I mean, Trump kept arming why didn't Trump, your fucking hero, Donald Trump, why didn't he pull Americans out of Ukraine? Why didn't they pull out all the advisors? Why did they stop selling? Why didn't Trump's anti-imperialist peacenik Donald Trump, why didn't he stop selling weapons to the Ukrainians? He continued selling weapons to the Ukrainians the whole time he was president. He's just as responsible as Biden is. Or maybe slightly less because he wasn't around for the beginning of it. But why wasn't Donald Trump stopping those weapons sales? Trump assassinated a foreign leader. He assassinated an important political figure in Iran. It's a fucking miracle that he didn't start World War III. Vaporizing Soleimani, but in an anti-imperialist way. Oh yeah, I'm sure Putin's very scared of Trump. That's right. I'm sure he's really scared of this fucking buffoon reality TV show host. I'm sure Putin just stays awake at night, just terrified of this man. Absolutely. Oh no, what's Donald Trump going to do? Is he going to send me a mean tweet? Is he going to say Putin was very nasty to me? Is that what he's going to do? Oh no. Ooh, oh no. Oh no. I'm sure he's very terrified, yeah. Oh no, I did not see that sophisticated pills. I did not see that. I'm happy that I did not. That sounds miserable. He's going to call him Pootler. Oh my goodness. That's funny. That's a good one. I needed a good laugh today. That's good. Putin is not at the top of his game. He's not beautiful. He's not smarter than anyone in Hollywood. I take it back. The sources for the far left quoted were that Christian Parenti article and Glenn Greenwald. Wonderful. Wonderful. The Tucker Carlson left. He's scared that Trump's going to give him a big old smooch. Anyway, I agree. America did help start the war in Ukraine. I absolutely agree. Obama and Joe Biden and Donald Trump as well, who also bombed Syria and also fucking bombed Afghanistan and also increased Obama's drone policy. So no, I don't give Trump any credit for that bullshit. He's actually part of, even though he pretends to be like against the deep state and pretends to be against the military industrial complex, he's a devoted servant of everything, of all of that. So I would maybe just take a brief moment to consider pulling your fucking head out of your ass, Mr. Chenad, and maybe reevaluating some of your stances on this massive dumbass reality show, game show host. Anywho. Hey, Hildebeest, how's it going? And he looks like a dang Cheeto. You ever notice that? He's orange, this guy. You believe that? But balance it with Biden's career as a whole, 40 years of hate and white supremacy? I guess so, but Trump's been doing just evil shit in the private sector during that time, though, you know? Yeah, he wasn't doing evil shit in the government, in the public sector for that whole period, but it's not like he wasn't doing bad stuff. He's got small hands. This is Trump. Ugh. I don't know if we lost Mr. Chenad. I don't know if we lost a potential new community member. I don't know if they got what they came for here.
Are they our values? America supports
He eats McDonald's. That's cool, though. I like that.
The apartheid state of Israel in their treatment of the Palestinians. Are they our values? The UAE and Saudi Arabia have been engaged in a war that resembles genocide in Yemen with support of the US, UK, France and other European countries. Are they our values? What are our values? I think it's a nonsense to talk about our values when in actual fact all countries work in their own interest. And this idea of oh, we have these values and we have that values and this is a like-minded partner, to me that's mostly, I would call it spin. For me, America has been at war for all but 25 years of its existence. America was built on the genocide of the native people of America, then on slavery and on colonialism. That's what America is built on. Are they our European values? Is this what we want from like-minded partners? And the manner in which
you can
America
count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter, for gifting Trump's small hands a tier 1 sub. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter, our most Christ-like of all sub-gifters. Thank you.
His interest and the manner in which it does it, I don't think they're values that we should have. Imperialist nature of American foreign policy has not been good for the people of the world. It is not good for peace, and we need a different approach to how we do things in the world. We feel international law has been eroded. The UN Charter is not being respected like it should be. The US and the Europeans, sadly, talk about rules-based international order, but they very rarely talk about the UN Charter anymore, because they break the UN Charter on a daily basis. They're using their economic influence to impose sanctions on other countries and devastate the lives of millions. What America and with the EU support a lot of the time, is doing with their use of sanctions is illegal. Sanctions are illegal unless they are established and signed off on by the UN. And very few sanctions in the world today have been agreed by the UN. So sanctions,
you can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Anonymous Gifter, thank you for the gifted sub to Orange Man Bad 69. Thank you for that as well. We got 2 brand new valued community members here. Trump Small Hands.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Orange Man Bad 69 and President Cheeto as well. Thank you very, very much to the wonderful, selfless, anonymous gifter for bringing these new community members into the fold here. Hell yeah.
Become a form of warfare, and a very effective form of warfare. Poor people have died in Venezuela, Nicaragua, Iran, Syria, because of sanctions. America has sanctions today on something like 38 countries. They use them as a form of financial imperialism. And if you're telling me that these are the values that Europe shares, that I disagree. You talk about, oh, we have the same form of government. Listen, in America, you have to be a billionaire to become president. It costs $2 billion to become the president of America. Noam Chomsky said a long time ago, you have only one party in America. It's called the Business Party. And he says there's 2 factions. One of them is called Democratic, and the other's Democrats, and the other's called Republicans. He says, and they're pretty similar.
Is that count on me? You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Anonymous Gifter, for gifting us up to Mueller Report as well. Oh my goodness. Look at all these exciting new community members being brought into the fold here. This is wonderful.
I think a democracy is where the people have a say in how their society is organized. I actually don't see much of that in Europe either. We have elections every 5 years. But is that democracy? If you don't have local government, if you don't have if there isn't a framework in place where the people have a say,
you can count on me.
in how
You're going to
their
have good old
society is
Rob
organized.
to talk you through all this.
And thank you to Anonymous Gifter for gifting a sub to President Putin 420 as well. Oh my.
how their country is organised, how their local community is organised. If you don't have that, I don't think
That's
you
the
can
lead
say you
number.
have what's called real democracy. And having a vote every
You can
5
count on
years
me. You're going to have good
isn't
old Rob
necessarily
to talk you through all this.
Thank you, anonymous gifter, as well, for the gifted sub to President Trunt as well. Oh my. Thank you.
democracy. In Ireland, our
People are
state
saying
is
he's scared of
102
Trump.
years
I've
old
heard that
since
as
we got
well.
our independence from the British.
I've heard that as well.
For those 102 years, we've had a right-wing government every day. Now you might say, are the Irish people so right-wing that they keep putting in right-wing governments all the time? Well, first of all, a third of the people don't vote, and most of them are poor. Secondly, the mainstream media and big business, they go to great lengths to make sure that the right-wing parties get back into power all the time. Is that democracy?
My last question is, what do you expect from this trip to China?
Well, listen, I suppose we want to understand China better. And listen,
I want to go to China.
we're accused of being, you are supporters of China, you're supporters of Iran, you're supporters of Syria, you're supporters of
Yes.
Russia.
Yes.
Listen, to be honest with you, I've never seen a government that I like anywhere. Right? I'm not a supporter of any government. But
Couldn't
listen,
be me.
I want peace in the world. I want governments in the world to act in the interests of their own citizens rather than just in the interest of big business. We have a Europe today that's been increasingly militarized. For who? For the military-industrial complex? Are they running Europe now? Whatever happened to looking after the citizens? Whatever happened to peace? China is a massive player on the world stage today. In my lifetime, China will be the #1 economy in the world. What will it be like? How will it behave if it's the #1 superpower? We don't know yet. But we think that Europe needs a very open relationship with China. We don't want China to dominate the world. We want China to work with all the countries of the world. We don't want China to be isolated. We want China to open up and
I just
to
feel
have
if
a
someone has to
positive
dominate,
relationship with the
you know,
countries of the world in the interest of the
if
people
someone
of those
has to
countries.
do it.
We want China to be progressive for peace, and we think that China, we're not asking you to dominate the world, we're asking you to work with everybody so that we have peace everywhere. And we want to move away from, we've had war, we've had imperialism, we've had colonialism, whether it's European or America or whoever did it, right? We've had too much of it. Today, 4.5 billion people live at risk of poverty in the world. Why? We are still behaving, in Europe, we still behave like colonialists. We rob poor countries by extracting wealth from them, and with our trade policies, we
Sid
help
Chow,
to
I
keep
am
them
no longer
poor.
asking.
Likewise, America. We need a different approach. We need an approach.
Someone has to
We have
do
to
it.
help these people. We have a massive challenge with climate change. We'll have no planet if we don't change our approach.
I would love for President Xi to
China
dominate our
has to be a leading
infrastructure.
player as well in tackling climate change. We cannot pretend that it's not happening. It's an existential problem today. And all the world together must work if we are going to deal with it. But there's a big challenge for China now that it's becoming such a dominant player in the world, that it has a huge challenge to make things better. And we think that Europe needs to work more closely with China and with everybody else. We think we should have good relationships with everybody, including the Americans. But the Americans have to start behaving as one of the countries of the world rather than behaving as if they own the place.
I'm sure they're going to get on that any moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wallace. I hope
I'm sure they're going to get on that at any moment. Wow, the mafia muscle has been dominating and isolating countries so their capitalist goals can be achieved while they trash the planet with their military is crumbling. There's just the rest of the world being woke and broke. That's right. Yeah. I wish when people said that we need the entire world to work together to fight the climate catastrophe that they would be as antagonistic to those countries that are preventing that at every turn. Yeah, I think maybe he was being pretty diplomatic there, but I think he doesn't really pull any punches when he talks about America usually, when he goes on his rants in like the European Parliament and everything. Cool, okay. So what do I get? What else do I have like along these lines? Okay, a couple things that I wanted to look at. You know, oh shit, Geopo. All right. There's a couple of things I wanted to revisit some of this Tibet stuff just a little bit. We spent a lot of time this week talking about Tibet and all that business, so I don't want to fixate on it too much. Who is that guy? It's Mick Wallace, who's a member of the European Parliament from Ireland. I wish there was like a meaningless political body that I could be a part of, where I could just make all kinds of speeches like that. I don't know if you saw this, but a really cool moment from Lula's visit with Xi. Well, I would like to look at like a bunch of this coverage. So, thank you for sharing, Sikalufakis. I have this on the horizon. So we'll look at a few of these Tibet things. We can look at some stuff from Lula and Brazil and their visit to China. And I want to talk about this like Ukraine files thing. And look at some of the information that's leaked in those Ukraine files. Talk about the way that the media came together to like go after the leaker, because that's the media's job, I guess. Including Bellingcat. Of course, Bellingcat was very concerned with tracking down the identity of this leaker. Aren't they supposed to be like anarchists, those people? Like, aren't they like anarchists who don't like the state? But I guess it's okay to work with the state to track down leakers of state secrets, though. I guess that's all right. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's interesting, the justification too. People are like, "Oh, this isn't like Chelsea Manning. They didn't do something good. This is like some like racist gamer guy that's sharing this, so it's okay. So it's okay to go after him." And it's like, I don't fucking care who it is. Who cares? Like, why are you working with the government to like track down this person? This was an intentional leak. Well, I want to get into this, Sinchal, because I've read this theory as well, and I want to kind of get into this idea that maybe this is information that has been like intentionally divulged. We're gonna look at all this though. We're gonna look at all this. First up, though, there's a few Tibet things that I wanted to look at. I saw this. Like, I find this shit just kind of strange. I find this shit kind of weird, honestly, once you start paying attention to it. You know, people say, like, like we said, people say, listen to the Tibetans. You must listen to what the Tibetans want. Come on, don't be insensitive. Respect people's lived experience. And then you see shit like this.
The responsibility that each and every one of you here today have to use the opportunities, the privileges to be able to succeed, to engage in meaningful dialogue, and to ensure that the voices inside of Tibet and of every other oppressed people is being amplified and heard by the entire world. Because, my friends, the work is still not done. And if we don't reclaim and remember our stories, who will?
This is from the Oslo Freedom Forum, part of the Human Rights Foundation. Choose Jimmy, who's like, you know, it's like telling people to remember, so people remember that we must like keep the people in our thoughts and remember, you know, and make sure that they can have their stories told. Like, this lady's from Toronto. She, like, you know what I mean? And here she is she's from Toronto. Here she is hosting a rally called for the Genocide Games, an anti-China like thing around the Olympics. She's from Toronto. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird when we say we must listen to Tibetans and listen to their cries for freedom, and we listen to like Western people that are from Canada and America, you know, working for these big human rights NGOs. Amplifying the silent voices. You know, I find that kind of weird. Like, having these like Westerners, the Westerners that are leading this like fight, basically. You know, when we say that we want to hear from Tibetans and we want to hear from these like dissident groups that organize these kinds of narratives that show up in the media, that show up at official NGO-backed human rights conferences, and tell these kind of heart-wrenching stories using this kind of like soaring sort of speech style. And they're from the West. They're from Canada. You know? So I saw that, and I saw this as well that I wanted to take a look at while we talked about this. This is great. There's a great sound drop in this that I think I kind of want to use for something. There's a fantastic sound drop in this. Richard Gere at the Oscars.
By this idea that there were 1 billion people watching this thing. It's astonishing. 1 billion people watching. And I was curious about what countries this was actually going to. And it is in fact being seen in China right now. And the first thought that came to me was, I wonder if Deng Xiaoping is actually watching this right now.
Sorry, I love that. I think I want to use that for an alert of some kind.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Anonymous Gifter, for the gifted sub to Free Tibet 88. I really want to use this for an alert.
And it is in fact being seen in China right now. To me.
Like, I gotta find something that would be good for this. So someone subscribes or does something and triggers.
I wonder if Deng Xiaoping is actually watching this right now with his children and his grandchildren.
Deng Xiaoping is not watching the
and
fucking
with the knowledge
Oscars, Richard.
That what a horrendous human rights situation there is in China, not only towards their own people, but to Tibet as well. And I was wondering if this...
No real specifics on that, right? It's always very loose with these accusations. Just a horrendous human rights situation. When was this? This is in 1993. So yeah. Probably a couple of things. You know, that was shortly after the Highway of Death, I believe, after the Gulf War. There's no more important things in 1993 that the U.S. government maybe is doing that Richard Gere could talk about. But no, he's very focused. He uses this platform this massive platform to talk about the horrendous human rights issues in China. What are those issues? Well, he doesn't specify. Human rights discourse is laughable. Its fundamentals, basically pretending power class struggle doesn't exist. People just have things without struggle. Yeah, and it's just the way that like human rights gets used as this cudgel by Western countries that are founded on mass genocide and slavery and brutal imperialism around the globe. What about gerbil rights, Mr. Gear? Oh my, that's spicy. But look what he does. He continues, though.
Kind of.
It's a spattering
Something
of applause.
miraculous and really kind of movie-like could happen here, where we could all kind of send love and truth and kind of sanity to Deng Xiaoping right now in Beijing.
That's another good one too. God, this is this sanctimonious Hollywood bullshit. There's really just nothing like it.
That he will take his troops and take the Chinese away from Tibet and allow these people to live as free, independent people again.
Allow these people to live as free, independent people again, says Richard Gere in 1993. Because famously, as we've been discussing, prior to the formation of the PRC, people in Tibet were very free and lived free lives of democracy and freedom, right? Get those Chinese troops out of there who liberated the country from this slavery, this like theocratic feudalism slave state. Get them out of there so they can go back to being free, independent people again. If bewildered applause. You know, it's very silly. Did you watch Red Corner, Diego? I remember we watched the trailer a couple months or years ago, whenever it was, but 90s, it seemed like free Tibet shit was everywhere. Well, that's what we've been talking about, right? And there's this big push, and that's why I was like discouraged when this like Dalai Lama viral video was going around, and I thought, oh, maybe we're gonna have maybe a conversation about some of the, like what the Lama system was about and how this is a whole lot more complicated than this like free Tibet sort of charade, which totally obfuscates like all these like elements of the class hierarchies that were there in place that were overthrown, and this totally trite kind of like, you know, catchphrase level analysis. And maybe we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that. And then nope, as we talked about yesterday, as soon as 2 days after the Dalai Lama video went viral, you have people that are like American leftists and Canadian leftists being like talking about China doing imperialism and settler colonialism. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're not quite there yet. My friend said he wouldn't be able to leave and work abroad if it wasn't for China. I mean, that's the main thing we've been talking about, lunatic. Like when you talk about colonialism, settler colonialism or imperialism and all these things, like it's not just a blanket term that you can describe a country moving their troops in and setting up a new political system or invading somewhere, or it involves a level of exploitation. And that's what we've been trying to talk about over the last couple of days. You know, are people better or worse off now? And on many levels, people's lives and quality of life have been improved dramatically over the last couple of decades. Yeah, Boots Riley is a settler colonialist stand. I mean, it's just, I think it's grotesque to talk about, to live in a settler colonialist like graveyard like the United States or Canada and talk about settler colonialism in Tibet when, you know, the settlers and colonists that colonized Canada and the United States killed millions of people and intentionally destroyed the people that were left, intentionally destroyed their culture and are now keeping them, you know, in these sequestered regions where they're living these lives of like quiet desperation. Now, a lot of the time not having clean drinking water, making up of a hugely disproportionate number in our prison system, you know? And there's just no example of that kind of thing happening when it comes to China and Tibet. Not that it's been perfect or anything like that. I don't think I would suggest that or anyone else would. But, overthrowing, as I was saying yesterday, with the help of Tibetans who lived there, who were serfs, overthrowing the feudal slave society there, instituting a new government and abolishing these practices, building massive, huge infrastructure projects, trying to eliminate extreme poverty, having an education system that still does, while teaching people Chinese and teaching people other languages, still does maintain the language and uphold the culture. There's no comparison to that and the settler colonialist societies that we all live in. There's just no comparison. This speech maybe less than a year after the Rodney King LA riots. I mean, it's something I wanted to talk about too, just in the scope of this human rights conversation. Some of these stories we've been seeing lately. There's two, these are two stories about the American prison system that I've just bookmarked over the last week, but I think these things happen every day and have for decades. There's a daily horror story about the American prison system. It's fucking barbaric. I don't think we've even reckoned with how barbaric the American prison system is. The kind of thing when we talk about this nebulous term of the human rights
This is some guy,
situation.
Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Step Back History, thank you for the raid. Get in, Raiders. Welcome in. Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rob. Hello. Nice to see you. Thank you for the raid. I'm just talking about human rights. We're talking about the way that human rights is used as a cudgel to go after China, for example. When you have these official ethnic groups that are in the West, in this kind of NGO complex, wielding these accusations about human rights, or clueless himbo Hollywood celebrities like Richard Gere, talking about the human rights situation, using these nebulous terms, not using really any specifics, right? Just the human rights situation in China or Tibet, And this is what's going on in the American prison system. To say nothing of what America does around the world to other countries. These are the conditions of the Fulton County Jail where LaShawn Thompson was found dead, covered in lice and feces. At the time of his death, over 90% of his unit was severely malnourished. Every person had lice or scabies. There's people in American prisons being tortured to death. Forget about the official death penalty, right? The corporal punishment system. There's people every single day in American prisons being tortured to death. In Rikers Island, there's people dying. How many people have died on Rikers Island just so far this year? People that haven't even been charged with a crime. And we're talking about the human rights situation in China, using just these nebulous terms where we can't even point to concrete examples such as this. And this is just one case. This is what's going on in American prisons every day. And Cursed Sam Cider, I think I know exactly what this link is that you're sharing with us here. Yeah, I was going to look at this one next, but thank you. It's just unfathomable, the scale of brutality and misery that is inflicted every single day, again, on people that haven't been convicted of a crime. And if you go to jail and you're tortured to death in prison, it doesn't matter whether you got a death sentence or not. You got a death sentence. To say nothing of the people that are just summarily executed in the street by these testosterone fueled fucking reactionaries who are just state-appointed judge, jury, and executioner who just make split-second decisions to just execute people on the street, which happens every single day. And clueless Hollywood celebrities, where in the country where they live, where this happens, still feel totally okay to use their big platforms to wag fingers at China, whether it's about Tibet or Xinjiang or Hong Kong or whatever's the latest front in this like weaponized human rights battlefield. And they still feel comfortable using their platforms to talk about the human rights situation there. Again, without any specific details, right? Without any specific details. This is the jail. Almost half of the 3,000 people held at the Fulton County Jail have not been formally charged with the crime. Like, this is barbaric. This is barbaric. And you can look at the human rights situation that the United States inflicts on people all over the world with invasions in Afghanistan and Iraq, or coups, or supporting proxy wars in Yemen or in Syria, which China is, by the way, trying to end right now, trying to end these conflicts, or Ukraine. But this is what's happening domestically, like with their own citizens. It's absolutely barbaric, and we still feel comfortable wagging our finger, whether it's about China or whatever it's about Tibet or any of these human rights narratives. And this shit happens every day. It's fucking barbarism. It's horrendous. The scale of the misery and the violence that's inflicted on people, I think, is just completely, like, I don't even think we even can wrap our minds around it. And these are just two stories that I've noticed over the last week. Right? There's stories about this that every single day. New video reveals Indiana jail guards left Josh McElmore, 29, naked in solitary confinement for 3 weeks straight before he died of malnutrition. He was in a state of psychosis and had no bed or bathroom while trapped in a windowless cell with lights on 24/7. This is a guy that was having a mental breakdown, and I think tried to assault a nurse because he was having a mental breakdown, and gets taken to prison, and rather than being treated in any way, gets starved to death in prison. Constant isolation, his cell being illuminated 24 hours a day, sleep deprivation. These are things we associate with torture. Josh was completely detached from reality, naked in his tiny cell for 20 days straight, rarely eating, drinking, or sleeping, but received no medical or mental health care. Guards interacted with him on only 4 occasions when they used extreme force to drag him out for a shower. Guards were aware Josh, who had schizophrenia, was living in filth and not eating. He rapidly lost 45 pounds and became visibly emaciated. But staff never brought in a doctor or called an ambulance until he was too weak to sit up straight or sip water. By then it was too late. One time, this is upsetting. This is genuinely triggering and upsetting. But we need, if we're gonna accuse other countries, live in America and really accuse other countries of human rights violations, I think we should be pretty clear about what kind of stuff is going on every single day in the United States. One time when guards wanted to clean his cell, 3 of them tackled him to the ground and forced him into a tight wrap restraint device that bound his legs and feet together with harness over his head. For reasons unclear, guards left him restrained like this for 4+ hours. And I've visited the museum at Dachau. I've been to Dachau. I went to the museum in one of the concentration camps in Germany, and it's this is shit that you would see there. And this is still a country that feels it's appropriate to position itself as being some kind of human rights leader. And clueless, dumbass celebrities like Richard Gere will latch on to these human rights causes to distract from their own sex scandals, by the way. That was the whole reason that he kind of started doing that in the first place. And they'll still feel comfortable talking about the human rights situation in China or Tibet. Tibet, where, again, people's lives have improved over the last several decades. Where poverty is decreasing. Where massive infrastructure projects are being built. Where people's culture is still, no matter what the rumors are, this traditional culture is still taught and upheld. Unlike in Canada or the United States with our indigenous communities. I went to Sachsenhausen, about 30 minutes north of Berlin. It was the first camp built in 1936 when the Olympics were happening. I mean, it's incredibly sobering to visit these places. But like, this is the kind of shit that we're, and on a larger scale, for a longer period of time. You know, we don't need to downplay any of the evils of fascism or the Nazis, obviously. But we're talking about a significantly larger scale here in a larger span of time. And also you incorporate the transatlantic slave trade and the genocide of indigenous peoples into that history. Didn't Richard Gere get a gerbil stuck up his ass and had to get it taken out at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver? I mean, I've always heard I know about the rumors. I don't know how much of it is verified or what. I did see posted in was it in the Cursed Takes? I did see there was some kind of like blind item about this. Anyway, this story is just fucking horrific, though. Was never charged with a crime, never arraigned, never saw a judge, and was just starved to death, kept in this cell, solitary, lights on 24 hours a day for 20 days, and was just starved and tortured to death. Like, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. This is when he's tortured to death. Never charged with a crime. Never saw a lawyer, never saw a judge. You know? And so I think we really need to like internalize some of these stories, especially when we have these conversations about human rights. The kind of shit that is going on every single day in America. Again, this is just 2 examples from the last week. This is 2 examples from the last week. Like, it can't be stressed enough. You know, even the whole Uyghur genocide narrative that we heard about, even the people that like research that and promote that, the Adrian Zenzes of the world, the people with the ASPI or whatever, they can't point to one person that actually died in that process, right? That's why they downshifted their whole genocide narrative to be like, oh, it's like a cultural genocide where there are these things are being, you know, their culture, their language is not being respected, and things like this. Which is, again, we can look at images from Xinjiang and see Uyghur language on all the signs, on the absolutely incredible public transit that's been built there. You see that there's like Uyghur new movie stars and TV stations and radio stations. Can we say the same thing in Canada? No, we can't. But they can't point to like one person that's actually died. Like if there was one story of a Uyghur person who was basically eaten to death by lice and left to die, or who was intentionally and deliberately starved to death over 20 days. Like that would be brought up. I mean, look at the way that one guy, the Otto Vargmuller guy or whatever the fuck his name is, with DPRK, that gets brought up every time. One person who was in prison in DPRK and ended up dying, despite there not even being evidence that he was tortured or anything like that, despite what the accusations were. Otto Warmbier, that's right, yeah. You know, this would be brought up every single time, anytime China comes up at the Olympics. Oh, anytime China does anything, well, it's like, well, what about this one guy? You know, one person. And this happens every single day in the United States. Price, a schizophrenic with an IQ below 55, died wide-eyed, naked, and starved in August 21 after a year of isolation at the Sebastian County Adult Detention Center, where he'd been held pending trial because he could not afford to pay $100 bail. He weighed 90 pounds at the time of his death. Like, the cruelty and violence and barbarism that is happening every single day in the American prison system is so unfathomable. And I don't know how anyone can live in this society or live in Canada, where our prison system is not a fucking joke either. I don't know if it's quite the same level of total sadism, but again, it's disproportionately populated by Indigenous peoples and by people of color as well. And it's amazing to me that someone can live in this society and still feel comfortable accusing China of being this like human rights disaster, or saying that somehow like America's the lesser evil when you talk about China or America or Russia. America, we get it wrong sometimes. We're the lesser evil, and it's not the lesser evil. There is nothing like this happening in any of these human rights horror stories that we hear. There's nothing close to this on this scale happening than what's going on right now at this very moment in the American prison system. Ugh. Absolutely horrible. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take a short break. And I'm going to come back, and there's stuff about we can look at the Lula stuff, and we can look at the leaked Ukraine document stuff. Okay? I'm going to take a brief 5-minute break. I'll put on some little audio visual content for you. I haven't done that in a little while. I'll put on some of that while I take a little break. I'm just gonna like blow my nose, stretch my legs a little bit. What's the time here? That is for almost 2 hours. And I'll just remember to remind everyone, right before I take a break, that if you enjoy this program, if you think that the commentary that happens here and the interviews and discussions and all the wonderful things that happen here on TRRS every single day, if you think these are important things to have or that's lacking in our mainstream media, this kind of coverage and this kind of perspective, the only way that this content stays on the air on twitch.tv is through the generosity of our wonderful community members such as Don Dark Zoni and others. So please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS, or you can gift subscriptions or friend coin. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps keep this program on the air, and allows you to join Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. You can get all the wonderful emotes. You can join the community. And it's going to be really good. It's not a cult, nor is it a pyramid scheme. This show is not funded by arms manufacturers. It's funded by the generous viewers and listeners. And it is not a psyop as well. If it was, I would tell you. So please, if you can, I really appreciate everyone that subscribes to TRRS. It's also free of charge. It's totally free of charge if you have an Amazon Prime account. Provided by chatters like you, viewers like the person reading this. Exactly. Totally free of charge if you have an Amazon Prime account. So just wait a moment. I'm sure there's going to be an influx. Any moment now. Yeah, I don't think that is accurate, Old Dutch. It would be interesting if that were to happen, but I don't believe that is the case.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Part Ian, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you. I always appreciate the people that bail me out when I do a pitch for subs, and then I'm just kind of left floundering. Part Ian, you bailed me out. I appreciate it. Thank you. Get on your way to the Golden Ticket Club. Hell yeah.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Diego, for the gifted sub as well. Diego is slowly approaching the highly elite 4-digit gifted sub.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And Diego, I don't know if that makes you feel weird or bad to mention, but it's pretty fucking incredible. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support that you've shown this channel and this community. And thank you, Don Dark Sony, for another 2 gifted subs. Thank you, Don Dark Sony. Okay, so just give me a brief moment.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Dr. Maggot, for the gifted sub as well. Thank you, Dr. Maggot. I got stuck in the tubes. Got stuck in the tubes. Ah. It's funny that I've basically created 2 full-length albums worth of music over the last 2 years, and I just haven't really bothered to release any of it, except playing it on this show. That's such a Rob thing to do. I made an electronic music album and like an indie rock album.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And GMO Radio, thank you for gifting a sub to Fidel Castro. Thank you. Okay, I'll be back in a moment. And if anyone else wants to subscribe, there is a hype train going on. And I will make sure to thank everybody that subscribes when I return in just a moment. slow. Hello. I do like this track because you can just really throw this on over any of this weird archival footage and it just like makes sense. It just makes sense. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Eating some grapes. Eating some grapes, grapes, grapes. Eating some grapes, grapes, grapes. Release the files. Ooh, brutalism. Okay. We have to look at this DeSantis ad, don't we? We're going to have to look at that Trump DeSantis ad, don't we? I really think we do. I haven't looked at it yet, and I think I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to put on headphones to really really take it in. Are you ready for this?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, anonymous gifter, for gifting a sub to Rob is Bussin'. I am straight bussin'. No cap. FR. See, I know the lingo. I'm with it. I'm a Zoomer. I'm the world's only 40-year-old Zoomer. I somehow just transcend the generations. Although I'm not 40 yet. I'm turning 40 in less than 2 months. I'm trying to just get used to saying it, you know? You have to just get used to saying it. So you're not it doesn't sneak up on you. You're not surprised or anything. I'm just getting used to saying I am 40 years old. I am a middle-aged man. I'm trying to just speak that just so it's it's out there. This gentleman simply will not stop bussin'. That's right. That's absolutely right. Okay, so we're going to see this. This is a sidetrack, but have you ever seen a Chapman stick played live? Just learned about it, and Tony Levin's playing with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson. Incredible tone from a Chapman stick. I've never even heard of that. Turned 38 this year, and I'm already saying I'm almost 40. You just gotta, you can't, there's nothing lamer than running from it, right? Fart Party 69, you know? There's nothing more pathetic than like, because I might, like the way that I dress, I don't exactly dress like a middle-aged man a lot of the time, but like, there's nothing more embarrassing than like pretending that that's not happening when it is, you know? You have to just own it. You just have to own it. There's a deleted scene in Dune where Picard plays a Chapman stick while high on spice. And that should not have been deleted. And there's Tony Levin. Interesting. So it's like kind of guitar, like a kind of guitar-ish neck. You've got the smaller strings on the outside, and then the big bassier strings in the middle. Interesting. It played by tapping. Interesting. I want to see, hold on. Before we get into the Trump thing. This thing I was going to say. I may be almost 40, but I still look like this when I leave my house. I actually really enjoyed this look. I really did. I was proud of this look. See, I'm into fashion. Is your kid embarrassed? No, he thinks I'm cool. He thinks I'm cool. I think, anyways. The glasses do really tie everything together. Gia and Katie would change sidewalk. No. No, come on. The damn. That's Jay and Katie, that's cap. That's cap as far as I'm concerned, sir. I needed to be less cap and more bussin', frankly. I'd walk up to this guy and ask for a quest. I do look like a cyberpunk character. You show up on the street in Night City. Give you a little side mission. That's cap, sir. That's how they talk, right? Okay. Here's this clip. The Pudding Fingers clip. I have not watched this yet. I saw like the images of it, but I didn't like FR on God. So I watched the like video of this, but I didn't listen to the sounds and everything. I didn't listen to the whole thing because I wanted to save it for the stream. So here it is. This is posted from the MAGA War Room. This is like an official Trump PAC, their first attack ad against DeSantis, and I got to say it's effective. From what I saw of it, it's very effective.
Ron DeSantis loves sticking his fingers where they don't belong. And we're not just talking about pudding. DeSantis has his dirty fingers all over senior entitlements. Like cutting Medicare, slashing Social Security, even raising our retirement age. Tell Ron DeSantis to keep his pudding fingers off our money. Oh, and somebody get this man a spoon.
Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Wow. Wow. That really was something else. We are so back. We are so back. I don't know. Why even have a why even have a Republican primary? There's just no point. There's just no point. It's so funny too because when Trump was arrested, DeSantis still tried to like suck up to him. He tried this like lame thing where he was like refusing to like participate in the whole arrest thing while also being like, hey, I don't know about him getting paid to paying off any porn stars. Like, I don't know. He tried to do this like kind of thing and then everyone just got mad at him. All the Trump people got mad at him. And still, despite like in that moment not throwing Trump under the bus, they're still coming out with this shit on him. He is a weasel. He's an absolute weasel. He's got no charisma. He's got no sauce or juice. Yeah, approaching Ted Cruz levels of willing humiliation. That's really something else. Is there anything extended on this from any of our friends? Oh, someone did send this. From Lula's arrival in China. This is really cool. The Chinese government surprised Lula during his official welcoming ceremony with a rendition of Ivan Lin's 1980 song of resistance against the U.S.-backed authoritarian Brazil military dictatorship, Novo Tempo. That's nice. Just have fun with it, boys. This is a great reception. I would feel very welcome. When I think of Too Many Cooks, it does have a little bit of that intonation there. That was cool. Plunger Man, you just sent the exact video that we just looked at. You're sending the exact video that we just looked at, sir. No cap. That was a tweet from Brian. No, that's what we're looking at. It's okay, Plunger Man. But just to let you know, though, that was not bussin'. No cap on God, FR. Does Brian have more about this, though?
Brazil, Luiz Inácio. On Friday, the presidents of China, Xi Jinping, and Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, signed several agreements on bilateral relations to enhance economic cooperation. The agreements cover a variety of areas such as tourism, food, environment, science and technology, aerospace, finance, among others. As part of his talks with his Chinese counterpart, Lula called for the creation of financial mechanisms outside the dollar area to counteract organizations that grant extortionate loans to developing countries. As part of his agenda, the Brazilian head of state intends to propose a plan for a peaceful solution to the conflict in Ukraine, as Brazil is a neutral country on the conflict. Lula's visit to China, the third one as the president of Brazil and the first during his current term, precedes the 15th meeting of the BRICS group made up by Brazil, China, India and Russia, to be held in August 2023, which according to
as soon as he's in office, it's the first place he wants to go. And he was sick briefly and then rescheduled and he's there. I think that says something in and of itself.
Lula will see the return of Brazil to the current economic and political panorama. On Friday, the presidents of
So the Brazilian government has just announced that it's finalized 15 bilateral trade agreements with China, valuing our $50 billion, including a satellite manufacturing partnership. Contrast this with the results of Lula's visit to Brazil's distant second most important trade partner, the U.S. Biden theatrically pledged $8 billion to Brazil's Amazon fund, then downgraded the pledge to $50 million US 1 month later, the same type of BS he pulled on his voters. Oh, there's this too. He encountered former President Dilma Rousseff today as she was officially sworn in as president of the New Development Bank. So really interesting and significant ties between the Lula's movement and this de-dollarization process. Now you have Dilma Rousseff, who was overthrown in a coup backed by the Obama administration, including Joe Biden. And now Lula's in China visiting with Dilma Rousseff, is now taking over as the president of BRICS. So pretty significant ties there.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has finished his first day on his visit to China in the city of Shanghai, where this morning he attended the New Development Bank's inauguration ceremony for its new president, former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff. The bank was quick to point out that this is the first time in history that a president of a BRICS nation attended a ceremony like this inside of the BRICS Bank. During her acceptance speech, Dilma Rousseff reiterated the bank's commitment to eradicating poverty in the global south. During Lula's speech at the event, he explained that the BRICS Bank had been created as an alternative to institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF, which have a long history of demanding neoliberal conditionalities in exchange for development loans. He also...
Interesting shape there. Reminds me of something.
...in exchange for development loans. He also emphasized the importance of making loans in local currencies, bypassing the dollar. Since the founding of the bank, it's averaged about 29% of its loans in non-dollar currencies, but under Rousseff's leadership, this percentage is expected to increase. The Chinese government has expressed satisfaction with Roussef as the president of the new development bank. Many around the world view the choice of Roussef as a sign of the Lula administration's commitment to moving forwards with the BRICS project. After visiting the BRICS Bank, President Lula visited a Huawei factory in Shanghai, and this got a lot of people in Brazil talking about the possibility of technology transfer on things such as 5G. The next stop on Lula's trip to China will be Beijing, where tomorrow he's expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping to work out over 20 bilateral trade agreements, and hopefully moving forwards on both countries' goal of brokering a ceasefire between Russia and the Ukraine.
Interesting.
Brazilian President Luiz
Is there anything more on Telesur?
Also on Friday, and as part of his official visit, Lula paid homage to the Chinese martyrs with a floral tribute at the Monument to the People's Heroes in Beijing, accompanied by Chinese and Brazilian officials, fulfilling one of his first commitments. The Monument to the People's Heroes is a 10-story obelisk that was erected as a national monument of China to the martyrs of the revolutionary struggle during the 19th and 20th centuries, and is a piece of the Tiananmen Square in Beijing, in front of the mausoleum of Mao Zedong. Priorly on Thursday, Lula also attended the inauguration ceremony of the former Brazilian president
We're not even allowed
Dilma
to say that
Rousseff
in
as
China.
president of the
Oh.
BRICS Development Bank. To
Oh my
conclude
goodness.
his agenda in China, both presidents will hold a gift exchange ceremony and an official dinner. Also on Friday, and as part of
Interesting. And here's a bit of Lula's speech, and I think getting into this like de-dollarization process we've been talking about. I think it touches on some of that stuff. So this is an ongoing part of this narrative about this shift in polarity, the rise of multilateralism, the de-dollarization, the collapse of the U.S. empire. These are all linked, and Lula has been a central part of this. And it's funny because they tried to kiss his ass. Biden tried to kiss his ass even after rubber stamping the coup that put Dilma Rousseff in prison, and rubber stamping the operation which didn't put Rousseff in prison but deposed her on these bogus corruption charges, and leading to the investigation that put Lula in prison. When he was elected, Biden tried to kiss his ass, tried to throw Bolsonaro under the bus, because of obviously Bolsonaro's like open support for like Trumpism and American reactionaries. But it doesn't seem like the attempted ass kissing on the part of the U.S. State Department or the Biden administration has actually slowed down this de-dollarization process that Lula is a big part of here.
Eu toda noite me pergunto por que todos os países estão obrigados a fazer seu comércio lastreado no dólar. Por que nós não podemos fazer o nosso comércio lastreado na nossa moeda? Por que nós não temos o compromisso
More and more
de
people around the
inovar?
world are asking this question. More and more people around the world are asking this
Quem é que
question.
decidiu
Who decided to use the
que
dollar as a
o dólar
currency?
a
I think we
moeda?
know, don't we?
Depois que desapareceu o ouro como paridade? Por que não foi o ien? Por que não foi o real?
It's almost like he has a
não foi
working
o
memory and
peso?
understanding of the history of
Porque
American foreign
hoje,
policy. That sounds like
país
tanky shit to me.
precisa correr atrás de dólar para poder exportar. Quando ele poderia exportar a sua própria moeda. Mas por que um banco como os BRICS não pode, sabe, ter uma moeda que possa financiar a relação comercial entre Brasil e China, entre Brasil e os outros países dos BRICS?
Cool. Is there anything else on Kausachin? And here, we can take a look at what American media is saying about it.
Brazilian
Let's see if they try to spin this as being somehow like sinister or problematic.
Ignacio Lula da Silva is in China as he aims to bolster economic ties with Brazil's largest trading partner. He arrived in Shanghai on a 4-day state visit Wednesday. The Brazilian delegation includes businessmen, state governors, congressmen, and ministers who are expected to sign over 20 bilateral agreements with China. Lula will hold a high-level meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday. Rory Daniels joins me now with more. She's the managing director of the Asia Society Policy Institute. Thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate it. Can you tell us, first of all, how much of this visit is...
From the what? From the... Was that the Asia Society Policy Institute?
So much for talking. Rory Daniels joins me now with more. She's the managing director of the Asia Society Policy Institute. Thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate it. Can you tell us, first of all, how much of this visit is about business and trade ties, and how much is about repairing relationships damaged under Lula's predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro?
Well, thanks for the question. I mean, in my mind, it's not a binary choice. It's both about restoring relations after the Bolsonaro administration was harshly critical of China, particularly on the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also on China's potential surveillance of the 5G networks that it builds overseas. And so it's really interesting for me to see that one of Lula's first stops was actually at a Huawei factory, which manufactures this 5G equipment. So it shows me that, you know, to the current Brazilian administration, they've very much assessed that the benefits of trade and investment with China do outweigh the risks at this time.
Yeah, Huawei was something that was certainly criticized by Bolsonaro. Brazil's leader is hoping to convince China's president to form a group of nations to mediate an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. What do you expect might come from those talks?
Well, I think it's critically important that the Brazilian leader does communicate a sense of urgency to China to play a more active role in ending the war in Ukraine. I think that China is quick to dismiss that type of ask when it comes from the U.S. or our European allies, simply because...
By the way, the Asia Society Global Corporate Network, sponsored by AIG, Bank of America, Bloomberg, Chevron, Citi, Fusion Fund, General Motors, Goldman Sachs, Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office, Raytheon Technologies, Morgan Stanley, McKinsey & Co., JP Morgan Chase, just to name a few. Just to name a few, some of the proud partners of the Asia Society that this lady works for. Why is it called the Asia Society when it's all Americans? Well, it's not all Americans. Actually, the leader of the Asia Society is the former Prime Minister of Australia. So I bet you feel pretty foolish now, don't you? I bet you feel pretty foolish now that you know that Kevin Rudd, career diplomat, foreign minister, and Prime Minister of Australia, is the founding head of the Policy Institute. I bet you feel pretty silly now, don't you?
As China sees the U.S. and Europe as in a coalition to contain China's rise. Brazil brings a very different perspective. Brazil and China see themselves as leaders of the developing world. They can address the developing world's concerns about the food and energy security crises that have come from the Ukraine war. So I think Brazil brings a different perspective, and perhaps Brazil's added perspective might convince China to do a little bit more in bringing these parties together. What is maybe a little less helpful from the U.S. perspective is Lula's comments to press earlier this month that Ukraine should cede Crimea to Russia as part of the settlement. I do think that China, Brazil, potentially other countries like India,
they've already ceded it. They've already ceded Crimea. Russia already has Crimea. They're not giving it back. Crimea's not coming back. It's like the one that got away for Ukraine. I'm sorry to tell you, Crimea will not be coming back. So yeah, I'm sure it was very unhelpful that he suggested that they should acknowledge this basic reality.
Have a better role to play as neutral conveners to these peace talks than to suggest settlements before the talks have even begun.
Last week, as you know, it was the French President Emmanuel Macron who met with Xi. This week, it's Brazil's Lula. We've also seen longtime regional rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran agree to restore diplomatic missions as part of a deal brokered by China. Does this show China's increasing diplomatic influence?
I think that it shows China on a flurry of diplomatic activity, some of which is just pent up deliverables that China could collect after it had been incredibly domestically focused on its COVID situation and the lockdowns and on its transition of political leadership. China does want to show its own public that it can play a strong and constructive role in global affairs. And some of the, diplomacy that you just mentioned, the Saudi-Iran deal, does help China with that narrative. On the other hand, some of China's diplomatic activities I would not characterize as, wins. For example, Xi's trip to Moscow was incredibly disappointing, I think, from a European perspective. And Macron's visit has been heavily criticized back home in Europe. So in some ways, it might have even hardened some anti-China
deliverables,
sentiment.
that fucking marketing consultancy speak. God, it's depressing to listen to.
Mixed picture. Diplomacy as events can't paper over some of the major differences that the U.S. and Europe have on one side and China has on the other. That's going to take a little bit more sustained diplomatic engagement and more time.
One of the words we kept hearing in the last couple of weeks in those meetings was multipolar. Rory Daniels, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Anyway, that's interesting. It's funny that there's two ASPIs. There's the Asia Society Policy Institute and there's the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. They're just coming out of the fucking woodwork, these people. So it's interesting. It's like I said, it's another example in this like burgeoning narrative of this shift to multilateralism, the de-dollarization. Really, really significant visit with Macron's visit last week, and then this. What is this from the Hindustan Times? I don't want to look at that. People not dying in wars we started is definitely not a win for Rory. No, that's exactly right. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to get to was this like Ukraine files leak thing. There's a lot of really interesting things that I wanted to talk about, but fuck it. I also just kind of want to take a nap. Honestly. Like, I wanted to talk about Bellingcat working with the New York Times to go after this leaker, and some of the things that are in this leak, some of the theorizing about whether this leak was maybe intentional. How long is this thread by Professional Hog Groomer? Oh, it's really long. I don't have the time and energy to get into this thread. I just don't. Maybe I'm going to punt that till Monday. Maybe I'm going to punt that to Monday because honestly, I'm still sick and I'm tired. I didn't sleep very much last night. I got to pick up my kid in about an hour and a half. And I kind of want to just, honestly, I as much as I would like to continue doing this stream and hang out with you all, I would also just kind of like to have a little lie down also. I would like to have a little lie down. So maybe I can punt this till Monday. Because I do want to talk about this. It's really important to talk about, but I don't have the energy to stay here for another hour and get into this big long thread about the leak and talk about all these things. It's going to take another hour and I just don't feel like doing it. Geriatric Millennial Stream. Yeah, here we go. There we go. I want to continue, but I would just like to take a nap. Normally I'm okay, but I'm sick right now, so I'm low energy. I'm not sleeping very well. Before you lay down, you should post-raid. Look at the last message I sent you on Discord. I will do that. The wheel coming on soon. I just got to catch my stories. I got to catch my stories. So listen, folks. If there are any more folks any more generous chatters that feel like subscribing to TRRS and helping keeping these content on the air, please feel free to do so. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate it a lot. And the only way that this community is able to exist is through the generosity of our wonderful, wonderful community members. So please subscribe if you can. But for now, I am going to leave. Okay? I'm going to go leave and go have a little lie down. And we'll see. We'll come back to it on Monday, and maybe we can still talk about this leak business. Tapping out early equals straight bussin'. That's right. Yes, it is. No cap. FR. So thanks, folks. Thanks for bearing with me this week. It's been a little bit low energy this week. I just haven't been feeling well, but this was a great week of TRRS, regardless of how I'm physically feeling, I think this was a great week. I enjoyed hanging out with you all this week. Thank you again. Thanks for everyone who tuned in and who supports this program. I appreciate it a lot. Should we raid Adam Cole again? I think we should. I think we should raid AEW superstar Adam Cole, aka the Chugs, who's playing Resident Evil 4 right now. It's always nice to get a little shout out from Adam Cole Bebe. So thanks again, folks. I'll be back on Monday, but you know what? I will be here on the weekend for sure. Adam Cole left WWE because they were going to make him manage Keith Lee in AEW. Now he's with Keith Lee. The thing is, though, I think they wanted to change his name and probably do something different, and they were probably going to not let him do anything cool. So I don't think it was just about that. Anyway, there will be some Cyber Rob 27/7 this weekend. Okay, maybe tonight even. Maybe even tonight. I'll come back in 6-7 hours and play some Cyberpunk. We'll see. But the next episode of TRRS, the show that you all love, will be on Monday, 12 p.m., 1 a.m. Pyongyang time. Thank you again, friends. Give my regards to Adam Cole. Goodbye. I'll see you later.